Make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button right now to see much more content just like this.
By the time Nia Holloway saw the first bulldozer parked beside her father's old fence, the rain had turned the Georgia clay the color of dried blood. She stopped her rental car on the shoulder of County Road 18 and stared through the windshield. The machine sat 50 yards inside the Whitmore property, yellow and enormous beneath a gray morning sky. Beyond it stretched rows of pecan trees, winter-thin cattle pasture, and a line of pine woods that Nia remembered as impossibly deep when she was a girl. A white survey stake had been driven into the ground beside the fence. Another stood 20 feet farther down, then another. They made a straight line toward the woods, toward the place her father had spent the last 15 years of his life insisting did not belong to the Whitmores. Nia switched off the engine. For a moment, she could hear only rain ticking against the roof. Then she saw the sign bolted to the fence. Georgia Department of Transportation authorized right-of-way clearing begins. Monday was 4 days away. Her father had been dead for 6. Nia stepped out of the car. Cold rain hit her face and immediately worked its way beneath the collar of her coat. She barely noticed. She walked to the fence, expensive shoes sinking into mud, and wrapped one hand around the top rail. The wood was newer than she remembered. The land behind it was not. She could still see her father standing there in work boots and an old Atlanta Braves cap, pointing toward the pecan grove, while 12-year-old Nia rolled her eyes and begged to go home. Land remembers, Elijah Holloway had told her. At 12, she had thought that sounded like something grown men said when they wanted children to stop asking questions. At 35, after a law degree, 13 years of property litigation, and 6 days of grief, she still had not figured out how to carry. She understood exactly what he meant. Records disappeared, buildings burned, people lied, but land kept boundaries beneath the weeds, graves beneath the roots, and sometimes secrets beneath both. Nia? She turned. A woman stood beneath the porch roof of the Whitmore Ranch office, 70 yards away. Tall, gray-haired, straight-backed despite the rain and her 64 years. Claire Whitmore wore work jeans, mud-scarred boots, a canvas jacket, and the same expression Nia remembered from childhood. Controlled enough to make anger look like patience. For 30 years, Claire had been forewoman of Whitmore Farm. She had managed cattle, payroll, fencing crews, harvests, storms, fires, funerals, and men who believed taking orders from a woman should be optional. She had also testified that Elijah Holloway forged a deed. That testimony had helped send Nia's father to prison. Nia walked toward her. Claire did not move. When Nia reached the porch, the older woman looked at her mud-covered shoes. Those don't seem made for Georgia clay. They weren't. I heard you were coming. From who? This is Bellwether County. That was answer enough. Nia looked past Claire toward the office door. I need access to the southern tract. No. Nia almost smiled. 16 years had passed, and Claire Whitmore still believed the shortest sentence was usually the strongest. I'm not asking permission as Elijah Holloway's daughter. You're standing on private property. I'm asking as counsel representing his estate. Claire's eyes sharpened. You're representing yourself? For now. That usually goes well. It does when the lawyer knows what she's doing. Claire looked toward the bulldozer. The state bought a right-of-way. The state bought a right-of-way from whoever had valid title. The Whitmore Trust has held title since 1957. My father disputed that. Your father went to prison for manufacturing documents to support that dispute. The words landed cleanly. Claire had always been good at that. No raised voice, no obvious cruelty, just the blade, delivered straight. Nia stepped closer. My father died with a felony conviction attached to his name. Claire's expression changed slightly. Not sympathy, something more guarded. I know. He spent 11 years in prison because your testimony convinced a jury that he altered a deed. I testified to what I saw. That's what I came back to determine. A pickup truck approached along the gravel drive. Claire glanced toward it. Nia did not. The clearing begins Monday, Nia said. If the state destroys evidence on disputed land, everyone involved is going to wish they had taken me more seriously. There is no evidence out there. You haven't been out there with me. I don't need to. That was the first mistake Claire made. It was small, barely visible. But Nia had spent 13 years watching witnesses lie under oath. The wrong people usually spoke too much. The disciplined ones did something else. They answered questions before they were asked. Nia studied her. You know where I'm talking about. Claire's jaw tightened. I know where your father thought he was talking about. The pickup stopped. A man climbed out wearing a sheriff's department jacket. Deputy Samuel Price had been 2 grades ahead of Nia in school. He had been lanky then, all elbows and knees. Now he was broad-shouldered, with a neatly trimmed beard and the slightly tired eyes of a man who had spent too many years breaking up fights between people he had known since kindergarten. He recognized Nia immediately. Nia Holloway. Sam. He looked between the women. I was hoping my first conversation with you back in town wouldn't involve trespassing. Claire folded her arms. I haven't asked you to remove her. Yet, Sam said. Nia looked at him. Who called you? Sam pointed with his chin toward the road. DOT supervisor saw a car stopped beside the equipment. Thought somebody might be messing with the machines. I touched a fence. Then my paperwork should be light. Claire stepped down from the porch. Monday's clearing has already been delayed twice. They're not delaying again. Nia turned toward her. Then somebody should tell them they may be preparing to run a bulldozer over a burial ground. Silence. Even the rain seemed quieter. Sam's expression changed. Claire's did not. And that was the second mistake. A person hearing that accusation for the first time should have shown confusion, disbelief, maybe irritation. Claire showed recognition. Nia saw it, just for a second. Then it disappeared. Sam looked at Nia. A burial ground? My father mentioned one in a letter mailed 3 days before he died. Claire's face went pale. There it was. Nia felt something cold settle beneath her ribs. She had lied. There was no mention of a burial ground in her father's letter. Not directly. He had written only 7 words beneath a hand-drawn map. Ask what they buried beyond the south fence. Nia had not known whether he meant documents, money, evidence, or a body. But Claire knew something. Sam looked toward the woods. Claire? She turned to him slowly. There hasn't been a marked cemetery on this property in my lifetime. That wasn't what I said, Nia replied. Claire looked back at her. For the first time, there was no condescension in the older woman's eyes. There was fear. Go home, Nia. I am home. No, Claire said quietly. You came back because grief has convinced you that finishing your father's fight will bring him back. Nia felt the old anger rise so quickly that her hands trembled. You don't get to talk about my father. I knew him longer than you think. You helped put him in a cell. Claire flinched. Small, but real. Then she turned away. Sam, tell the DOT crew nobody enters the southern woods until I make a call. Nia stared. Claire walked toward the office. What changed? Sam asked. Claire paused at the door. She did not look back. Nothing. That didn't sound like nothing. Claire rested one hand on the doorframe. No clearing until tomorrow afternoon. Why? Claire finally looked at Nia. Because if Elijah Holloway left one last match behind, I want to know what he intended to burn. Then she disappeared inside. Nia stood in the rain, watching the closed door. She had returned to Bellwether County expecting resistance. She had not expected fear. And she certainly had not expected Claire Whitmore to be afraid of a dead man. Nia spent that afternoon in the county records office beneath fluorescent lights that buzzed loud enough to irritate thought. The courthouse had changed less than she expected. Same green marble floor, same brass elevator doors, same portraits of judges who all seemed to have been born annoyed. The property records department occupied the basement, where old deed books sat in steel shelving behind a counter, and the air smelled like dust, paper, and overheated copier toner. A clerk named Janice Epps recognized Nisa before Nia recognized her. Elijah's girl. Nia hated the phrase and loved it at the same time. Nia. I remember. Lord, look at you. Janice came around the counter and hugged her before asking permission. Nia stiffened, then surrendered. I'm sorry about your daddy. Thank you. He could irritate the horns off a bull. That sounds like him. Janice smiled sadly. Still didn't deserve what happened to him. Nia looked at her. Janice immediately seemed to realize she had said more than intended. What do you mean? The older woman adjusted her glasses. I mean, prison, cancer, all of it. Nia let the silence stretch. Silence was one of the first tools she had learned in litigation. People rushed to fill it. Janice did not. Interesting. I need everything on Whitmore Farm, Nia said. Deeds, plats, easements, tax maps, probate transfers, especially anything involving the southern boundary. Janice stared at her for a moment. Then she walked back behind the counter. How far back? Before 1957. That'll take some digging. I came dressed for it. Janice glanced down at Nia's ruined shoes. Apparently. 3 hours later, Nia had built a paper trail across half a conference table. Whitmore Farm currently covered just over 2,300 acres. Most of it had been assembled between 1948 and 1967 by Claire's grandfather, Henry Whitmore. The disputed southern section was different, 182 acres, transferred to the Whitmore family through a quitclaim deed dated May 3, 1957. Grantor, Beatrice Holloway Carter. Grantee, Henry Joseph Whitmore. Nia read the name 3 times. Holloway. Her father had always said the land belonged to family. She had assumed he meant someone distantly connected. Who was Beatrice? Nia asked. Janice leaned over the document. Couldn't tell you. Was this deed part of the criminal case? Yes. The prosecution said the original had been destroyed, and my father produced a fraudulent copy showing a different acreage. Janice nodded cautiously. Nia pulled out her father's trial transcript. She had brought the whole thing in a banker's box from Atlanta. On page 614, Claire Whitmore testified that she had seen Elijah remove an old deed book from a locked cabinet at the farm office. According to Claire, he later returned it. A deed was missing. 2 weeks afterward, Elijah presented what prosecutors called a fabricated photocopy. The photocopy showed that Beatrice Carter transferred only 92 acres to Henry Whitmore, not 182. The missing 90 acres included the southern woods. The jury believed Elijah had altered the document. Naya read Claire's testimony again. Question: Did you see Mr. Holloway remove Deed Book 42? Answer: yes. Question: Did he have permission? Answer: no. Question: Did you later discover that the book had been tampered with? Answer: yes. Nia closed the transcript. Where's Deed Book 42 now? Janice's face tightened. Missing. Nia looked up. Still? Been missing since the investigation. And nobody thought that was unusual? They thought your daddy took it. He was arrested. Yes. His house was searched. Yes. His truck, workshop, storage shed, and my grandmother's house were searched. Janice said nothing. They never found it. No. So a permanent county record disappears, and because my father once touched it, everyone just decided he must have made it vanish? Janice lowered her voice. Nia, this county was different 20 years ago. 20 years ago was 2006, Janice, not 1906. I know. Do you? Janice looked hurt. Nia immediately regretted the tone. She rubbed her forehead. Sorry. No, you've got it right. I've got a lot of things right now. I'm not sure anger is helping. It kept your father moving. That's what worries me. Janice sat across from her. Your daddy wasn't always angry. I know. He was funny. I know that too. He used to come in here and bring pecan pralines because he knew the old recorder liked them. Nia smiled despite herself. That sounds illegal. It probably was. They were good pralines. Janice glanced toward the closed office door. Then she lowered her voice further. There's something you should see. She stood and disappeared into a back room. Nia waited. Janice returned carrying a narrow ledger, bound in cracked brown leather. No checkout record, she said. You didn't get this from me. What is it? Old index of land transactions, before everything got computerized. Nia opened it. Handwritten names filled the pages. Carter, Whitmore, Bell, Holloway. She turned carefully to 1957, May 3rd. Carter, Beatrice H. Whitmore, Henry J. Book, 42, page 191. Nia felt a pressure behind her eyes. Book 42? Yes. She continued reading. A notation appeared in pencil beside the entry. Partial conveyance. See Survey M17? Where's Survey M17? Janice did not answer. Nia looked up. Missing too? No. Then where is it? Janice swallowed. It was sealed by court order during your father's trial. Nia frowned. Why seal a survey in a forgery case? That's a question I asked once. And? I was told to stop asking. Nia sat back. Who told you? The county attorney at the time. Richard Vale? Janice nodded. Richard Vale had prosecuted Elijah Holloway. He had later become a superior court or judge. He retired 3 years earlier. Nia felt the case shift beneath her feet. Not proof, not even close, but pressure. A document supposedly forged by Elijah referenced a survey that had been sealed by the same legal system that convicted him. Can I petition to unseal it? You can petition anything. Would Judge Harrington grant it? Janice gave her a look. Would depend what kind of morning he's having. I've handled federal judges. Then you've never met Walter Harrington before? Coffee? Nia almost laughed. It felt strange. She had barely smiled since receiving the call from hospice. Janice watched her. Then her expression softened. He talked about you every time he came in. Nia looked down, even after we stopped speaking. Especially then. The words hit harder than she expected. Nia had not spoken to her father during the final 11 months of his life. Their last conversation had ended with her telling him she could no longer spend every visit discussing court filings, deed books, and Whitmore land. He had told her truth did not become less true because she was tired of hearing it. She had said obsession did not become justice because he called it truth. Neither apologized. Cancer did what stubbornness could not. It ended the argument. Nia had made it to hospice 8 hours too late. Janice touched the ledger. He was convinced this survey proved something. Did he ever see it? Not that I know. Then why? Janice hesitated. Because somebody told him it existed. Who? I don't know. Nia looked again at the pencil notation. Partial conveyance. That one phrase could change everything. If the 1957 deed conveyed only part of Beatrice Carter's land, the current Whitmore boundary might be wrong. And if the boundary was wrong, the state's right-of-way purchase might also be wrong. But none of that explained Claire's reaction when Nia mentioned a burial ground. At 5:30, the courthouse closed. Nia left carrying copies, notes, and a court petition she intended to file first thing in the morning. Outside, the rain had stopped. Bellwether's main square glistened beneath streetlights. The town had grown around its courthouse in the way southern towns often did. Brick storefronts, 2 churches within shouting distance of each other, a diner, a pharmacy, a bank, and a Confederate statue that had finally been moved from the courthouse lawn to a museum storage facility after 3 years of arguments. Nia walked toward her car. Someone was leaning against the hood. Sam Price. You make a habit of blocking lawyers from their vehicles? Only expensive lawyers. How do you know I'm expensive? You've got Atlanta shoes. She looked at the mud crusted over them. Not anymore. He handed her a paper coffee cup. She stared at it. What is this? A peace offering. For what? I don't know yet. I figured we'd save time. Nia took it. You always this suspicious? Sam asked. I'm a lawyer. That doesn't answer the question. It should. They stood beneath a streetlight. Sam shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. I talked to the DOT supervisor. And? Claire called him before I did. Clearing postponed 48 hours. Nia frowned. She had the authority to do that? She manages the trust property. Why would she delay a state project because I made an unsupported claim about a cemetery? That's why I came to find you. Nia took a sip. Black coffee. He remembered. That bothered her more than it should have. Claire knew, Nia said. Knew what? That there might be graves. Sam glanced around. Careful. I watched her face. You prosecute expressions in Atlanta. I depose people who've rehearsed lies with lawyers who bill $900 an hour. Faces matter. Sam considered that. Did Elijah ever tell you about a cemetery? No. That was not entirely true. There had been stories. Her grandmother had once said the Holloways had people buried back behind the Whitmore trees. Nia had been 9. She thought her grandmother meant people had died there. Only now did she understand she might have meant buried literally. What did the letter say? Sam asked. Nia looked at him. You've been a deputy too long. Probably. She took the folded copy from her coat pocket. She had read it so many times the creases were already weakening. She handed it to him. Sam read, "Nia, if this reaches you, I either got brave or ran out of time. I was wrong about one thing. I thought proving the deed was enough. It isn't. The paper matters because of what the land holds. Ask what they buried beyond the south fence. Don't trust the map they show you. Find Mr. Bell's stone. I'm sorry I made loving me feel like joining a war." Daddy Sam read the final line twice. Then he handed it back. "Mr. Bell? Mean anything to you?" "Bell's a common name here." "Any connection to Whitmore Farm?" "Not that I know." "You grew up here." "So did you." "My father made sure I left." Sam looked toward the courthouse. "I always thought you made sure you left." That irritated her because it was partly true. "I need access to those woods." "Legally?" "Preferably." "I'm impressed." "I've matured?" Sam smiled. Then the smile faded. "I can probably get you close." "How?" "County drainage easement runs along the south edge." "Public access?" "Maintenance access. That sounds like government language for bring boots." "You'll need them." "When?" "Sunrise." Nia studied him. "Why are you helping?" Sam's face became serious. "Because my father sat on Elijah's jury." Nia froze. She had known the jurors' names once. She had memorized them in law school, blaming 12 strangers for believing the case against her father. Price. Thomas Price. Sam's father. "He voted guilty," Sam said. "Yes." "He regretted it." Nia did not know what to say. Sam looked down. Toward the end, he used to talk about the trial. Said something didn't fit. "What?" He couldn't explain it. Just said everybody was so sure Elijah was angry enough to forge the deed that they stopped asking whether the deed might actually be right. Nia's throat tightened. Why didn't he say something? He was a juror. Trial was over. That doesn't mean he couldn't have... I know. Sam's voice sharpened, then softened. I know. Nia looked away. Sam continued. My dad died believing he helped do something wrong. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But if there's something out there, I'd rather find it before a bulldozer does. At sunrise the next morning, frost covered the dead grass beside the county drainage easement. Nia had traded her city shoes for rubber boots purchased at a farm supply store that opened at 6. Sam parked his county SUV behind her rental. He carried bolt cutters, a thermos, and the expression of a man already regretting the paperwork. You planning to arrest yourself? Nia asked, nodding toward the bolt cutters. County lock. You have a key? Lost. Convenient. Georgia government. They followed a narrow maintenance path along a drainage ditch until they reached the southern boundary of Whitmore Farm. The fence here was old, not the newer boards near the ranch house, but rusted woven wire threaded between leaning cedar posts. Nia stopped. My father used to bring me somewhere near here. Sam looked through the trees. You remember where? No. You were what, 10? 12. Old enough to remember? I was busy being miserable. That I remember. She looked at him. You remember me at 12? You threatened to hit me with a library book. You deserved it. I said your science fair volcano looked like a cow pie. It did not. It absolutely did. For a few seconds, the years between Bellwether and Atlanta disappeared. Then Nia saw something tied around a fence post, a strip of faded red fabric. She moved closer. What is it? Sam asked. Nia touched it, old, weathered, almost colorless. My father used red survey tape. So does half the county. He tied it in double knots. She showed Sam. 2 knots. Her pulse quickened. They climbed beneath the sagging wire and entered the woods. The ground sloped gently downward. Pines gave way to hardwoods. A creek murmured somewhere ahead. They found another red strip 40 yards in. Then another. Elijah had made a trail. Naya's breathing changed. He had been here, not in some abstract legal dispute. Here, walking these trees, marking this path, leaving something for a daughter he did not know would come. The trail ended near a massive oak that had split during a storm. Its exposed roots rose from the earth like black ribs. Sam walked around the fallen trunk. Nia. She followed. At first, she saw only leaves, then stone. A small gray slab leaned at an angle beneath honeysuckle vines. No polished granite, no carved angel, just field stone. Nia knelt and brushed away moss. Letters had been cut into the surface by hand. J. Bell, 1879-1936. Her father's letter flashed through her mind. Fine, Mr. Bell's stone. Sam. I see it. They searched the area. Within minutes, they found another stone. Then another. Some had initials. Some only scratched crosses. Several were almost completely buried. One tiny stone, no higher than Nia's hand, stood beside a larger marker. A child. Nia swallowed. This isn't one grave. No. They moved carefully through the brush. 8 stones. 11. 14. Then Nia saw a depression beneath a cedar tree. Beside it, broken marble lay under leaves. She lifted one piece. Hollow. Her breath stopped. She cleared dirt with both hands. Another fragment. Hey. Sam crouched beside her. Nia fitted the pieces together. Holloway. Nothing else remained legible. For a long moment, she could not speak. Her father had been right. Whatever else he had been wrong about, however obsessive he had become, however much his fight had consumed him, he had been right. A sound came from behind them, a branch breaking. Sam stood. His hand moved instinctively toward his holster. Claire Whitmore emerged between the trees. She was alone. No coat this time. Just a flannel shirt, work vest, jeans, and boots. She stared at the broken Holloway stone in Nia's hands. Nobody spoke. Finally, Nia stood. You knew? Claire's face looked older than it had the day before. I knew there were graves. How long? My whole life. Sam swore softly. Nia stepped toward her. You testified that my father fabricated a claim that this land belonged to his family. I testified about a deed. You knew his family was buried here? Yes. The words seemed to change the air. Nia felt heat rise through her body despite the cold. You watched him go to prison. Claire's eyes remained on the stone. Yes. And you never told anyone? No. Sam moved closer. Claire, you need to be very careful about what you say next. She gave him a tired look. I've been careful for 30 years, Samuel. That's not what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. Nia's hands were shaking. You knew. Claire looked at her. I knew there was an old cemetery. I did not know whether Elijah's deed was genuine. That's convenient. It's true. You told the jury he removed the deed book. He did. You said he tampered with it. I said it appeared tampered with, after he touched it. Yes. You let them build the rest. Claire's jaw tightened. So did a prosecutor. So did a judge. So did 12 jurors. Don't you dare spread this around so thin nobody has to carry it. Claire's eyes flashed. You think I don't carry it? I think my father carried it in a prison cell. That landed. Claire looked away. Sam stepped between them slightly. Nia. No. She walked around him. My father lost 11 years. He came out with a record that followed him everywhere. Couldn't get hired. Couldn't get loans. Half this town called him a thief. I spent my 20s telling people I didn't care what they thought, then driving 3 hours to visit him behind glass. Claire closed her eyes briefly. And you knew there were Holloway graves here. I knew there were graves with names I was told never mattered to the deed. Who told you? Claire said nothing. Who? My father. The answer surprised Nia. Claire's father, Robert Whitmore, had inherited the farm from Henry. He died in 2009, 3 years after Elijah's conviction. What exactly did he tell you? That the cemetery was an old workers' burial ground? That families buried here didn't own the acreage? That Henry allowed burials as a courtesy? Do you believe that? Claire looked toward the stones. I did. And now? Claire did not answer. Nia stepped closer. Why did you stop the bulldozers? That took longer. Finally, Claire said, because some lies can survive people. Nia stared at her. But they don't survive machines. Claire turned and walked deeper into the cemetery. She stopped near a clump of wild azalea. My grandfather ordered this area fenced off when I was a child. Said cattle broke stones. Sounds considerate. It wasn't. Claire kicked aside leaves. Underneath was the corner of a concrete slab. Sam helped clear it. They exposed a rectangular marker lying flat. No name. Only a metal plate rusted almost beyond recognition. Nia rubbed it carefully. 3 stamped characters emerged. M17. Nia's heart slammed. Survey M17? Claire looked at her. You know about it. It's sealed. Claire gave a bitter laugh. Of course it is. What is this marker? Survey monument. From when? Before my time. Nia crouched. A survey monument labeled M17, in the exact location referenced by the old county index. Her father's case had begun to crack. By noon, the cemetery was no longer a secret. Sam contacted the sheriff. The sheriff contacted the county coroner. The county attorney contacted 3 other people, all of whom called someone else. Within hours, yellow tape surrounded the southern woods, and the Department of Transportation issued a temporary stop work order. Local reporters arrived before lunch. Nia watched them gather beside the county road. Somebody leaked fast, Sam said. This town could leak rain through concrete. Claire had disappeared back toward the ranch. Before leaving, she told Nia one thing. Find Amos Bell. Who was that? Jay Bell's grandson. Alive. Last I heard. Where? West side of town. Ask at New Hope Baptist. Then she left. Nia found Amos Bell that evening in a 1-story brick house behind an auto body shop. He was 83 years old, nearly blind in one eye, and sitting on his porch shelling pecans into a metal bowl. When Nia introduced herself, he stopped. Elijah's daughter. It was the second time in 2 days. This time she did not mind. Yes, sir. Amos pointed toward the chair across from him. You got his forehead? Nia sat. I'm told I got his stubbornness too. That ain't always a compliment. So I've learned. Amos resumed shelling. What took you so long? Nia stared. You expected me? Elijah did. When? Before they locked him up. Amos dropped a pecan into the bowl. He said if he couldn't prove it, you would. Nia felt suddenly angry. Not at Amos, at her father. He had assigned her a future before she was old enough to refuse it. I was 20 when he went to prison. I know. I didn't even practice law. He knew you would. That doesn't mean he had the right to build my life around his case. Amos looked at her. No, it doesn't. The simple agreement disarmed her. He set the bowl aside. Your daddy loved you badly sometimes. Nia blinked. Amos continued. People like to say love excuses everything. It don't. Sometimes a man can love you so much he starts deciding what you ought to carry because he can't imagine anybody else strong enough. Nia looked down. That sounds like him. It was. You knew him well? Since he was 6. Then tell me about the land. Amos leaned back. My grandfather was Joseph Bell, that J. Bell stone you found. You knew it was there? I knew where it used to be. Haven't been back in 50 years. Why? Because Robert Whitmore told us we weren't welcome. Nia's jaw tightened. When? 74. What happened? Grandma Bell died. Family wanted to bury her beside Grandpa. Robert said no more burials. Did your family own the cemetery? Amos studied her. Wrong question. What's the right one? Who owned the 90 acres around it? Nia waited. Amos smiled faintly. Beatrice Holloway Carter. Nia's pulse accelerated. How do you know? She was my great-aunt. The family connection unfolded slowly. Beatrice Holloway Carter was Nia's great-great-grandmother's sister. Widowed young, Beatrice accumulated land through inheritance and purchase during the 1920s and 1930s. By 1957, she owned roughly 180 acres bordering the Whitmore farm. According to Amos, Beatrice sold Henry Whitmore 92 acres, not 182. The remainder contained the family cemetery, 2 tenant houses, woods, and a creek. What happened to it? Nia asked. Amos looked toward the darkening sky. Depends who you ask. I'm asking you. Beatrice died in 61. No children. No clean probate. Family scattered. Taxes got confusing. Then county maps started showing Whitmore owning everything. Did anyone challenge it? My father did. And Henry Whitmore told him to prove it. Could he? Original deed was supposed to be at the courthouse. Book 42? Amos nodded. Nia stared. You knew? Elijah found me in 2004. Asked the same questions. What did you tell him? Everything I'm telling you. Did you give him documents? Amos was silent. Nia leaned forward. Mr. Bell. I gave him a photograph. Of what? A deed. Her heartbeat seemed to stop. You had a photograph of the original deed? My father took it in 1963. Where is it? Don't know. Did Elijah? I gave it to him. Nia stood. The prosecution said my father created a fraudulent photocopy. I know. They said no earlier copy existed. I know. Did you testify? No. Why not? Amos looked ashamed. Because somebody came to my house. Who? Richard Vale. The prosecutor. Nia sat, again. He came personally. Before trial. What did he say? That Elijah was facing serious charges. Said if I involved myself, I could be investigated for conspiracy. Based on what? I asked the same thing. And? He asked whether an old man on Social Security wanted lawyers going through 40 years of tax records. Nia's stomach turned. He threatened you. He called it advice. Why didn't my father's attorney call you? I told Elijah I wouldn't testify. Did you tell his attorney about the photograph? I was scared. Nia closed her eyes. One frightened witness, one missing deed book, one sealed survey, one forewoman who knew about a cemetery. Her father had not lost because there was no evidence. He had lost because every piece of evidence had been separated from the others until none of it looked like enough. "Do you have anything else?" she asked. Amos looked toward his front door, then back at her. "Maybe." He went inside. Nia waited on the porch. 5 minutes later, Amos returned carrying an old cigar box. He placed it on the table between them. Inside were family photographs, funeral programs, tax receipts, church bulletins, and folded letters. At the bottom lay a black and white photograph. It showed 2 women standing beside a fence. Behind them were pecan trees. One woman was elderly, wearing a dark dress and hat. On the back, someone had written, "Aunt Bea at South Line, 1958. Whitmore fence moved again. Nia stared at the words. "Again?" Amos nodded. "Your daddy cared too much about the deed." "What do you mean?" "Paper tells you what people intended." He tapped the photograph. "Fences tell you what they did." The next morning, Nia filed an emergency petition to halt all clearing and unseal Survey M17. By afternoon, she was standing in Judge Walter Harrington's courtroom. The Whitmore Trust had retained counsel. Of course they had. Graham Sutter represented half the wealthy families between Macon and Savannah, and dressed like every room was 10 degrees cooler than everyone else felt. He shook Nia's hand before the hearing. "I'm sorry about your father." "Thank you. I mean that. I'm sure." He sighed. "Still sharp. Still billing?" "Always." The hearing lasted 90 minutes. Graham argued that Nia's claims were speculative, historically remote, and unrelated to the state's current right-of-way. Nia presented photographs of the cemetery, the M17 monument, the old transaction index, and Elijah's letter. Then she made her real argument. If clearing proceeds before the boundary is established, the court risks authorizing destruction of a potentially protected historic burial site located on land the Whitmore Trust may never have owned. Judge Harrington leaned back. "How long do you need?" 30 days. Graham stood. "Your Honor." "Sit down, Mr. Sutter." Graham sat. The judge looked at Nia. 14. 21. "You bargain with every judge?" "Only reasonable ones." Harrington almost smiled. 14 days. Survey remains sealed pending my review. No clearing within 500 feet of the cemetery. Gavel. Done. Outside the courtroom, reporters surrounded them. Nia refused comment. Graham did not. The Whitmore family respects every burial site on its property and intends to cooperate fully with authorities while protecting lawful ownership that has been established for nearly 70 years. Nia stopped walking. On its property? Graham realized too late. Cameras turned toward her. She faced them. That is precisely the question nobody should answer until the evidence does. By evening, the clip was on local television. By morning, it had reached Atlanta. And by noon, someone broke into Nia's hotel room. Nothing expensive was taken. Not her laptop, not jewelry, not cash. Only one thing. The photocopy of her father's letter. Sam stood beside the hotel dresser while a crime scene technician dusted the window. "You sure nothing else is missing?" "I'm sure." "Could be someone looking for information." They took Information. Copy of a letter. A letter mentioning Mr. Bell. Sam looked at her. Amos. They were in the car 30 seconds later. Amos Bell was fine. His house was not. The front door stood open. Drawers had been emptied. Papers covered the floor. The cigar box was gone. Amos sat at his kitchen table, furious rather than frightened. I went to get breakfast. You okay? Sam asked. I'm 83. I ain't okay on a good morning. Nia crouched beside him. The photograph? In the box. Anything else important? Amos looked at her. Not anymore. What does that mean? He pointed toward an old family Bible. Your daddy taught me something. Nia opened it. Inside the front cover was a small envelope, taped flat. She removed it. 3 photographs slid onto the table. Copies. Amos smiled. Never keep one of anything when white folks with lawyers tell you it don't exist. Sam coughed to hide a laugh. Nia almost did too. One photograph was the 1958 fence line. Another showed several family members standing in the cemetery during a funeral. The third made Nia stop breathing. It showed a deed, not the entire document, only the signature page and legal description. But the acreage was visible. 92, not 182. This is it, Nia whispered. Picture my daddy took. Can we authenticate it? Amos shrugged. Picture's older than you. That's not what I mean. I know what you mean. Sam leaned over. Who's that witness signature? Nia looked. The deed bore 2 witnesses. One name was unreadable. The other was clear. Lillian Whitmore. Henry's wife, Sam said. Claire's grandmother. Nia stared at the signature. A Whitmore had witnessed the original 92-acre transfer. If authentic, the family knew from the beginning that Beatrice had not sold the remaining 90 acres. The dispute was no longer about confusion. It was about whether someone changed the public record. That afternoon, Claire called Nia. No greeting. Come to the farm. Why? I found something. What? You won't believe me if I tell you over the phone. Try. Claire was silent. Then she said, Your father's handwriting. Nia arrived 20 minutes later. Claire waited inside the ranch office. The room looked almost exactly as Nia remembered from childhood. Wood paneling, metal filing cabinets, a photograph of cattle in winter, an old map of Bellwether County mounted behind a desk. Claire placed a yellow legal pad on the table. Nia recognized her father's handwriting immediately. Block letters, hard pressure. The final page was dated August 19th, 2005, 9 months before his arrest. Nia read, South fence measurements do not match tax plat. Old cedar line 71 to 88 yards north depending location. M17 stone near cemetery. Claire says Robert told her cemetery was not ours to disturb. Ask why if Whitmore owns it. Nia looked up. You spoke to him about this. Claire nodded. You told him your father said the cemetery wasn't Whitmore property. No. That's what this says. I told him Robert said it wasn't ours to disturb. You understand the difference sounds convenient only to you. Claire accepted that. Where did you find this? Inside an old maintenance binder. Now? I was searching after yesterday. Why wasn't it turned over during discovery? I never knew it was there. Nia laughed once without humor. You expect me to believe that? No. Good. Claire sat. For the first time, she looked tired. Not physically, morally. Nia had seen that look on clients who had spent years defending a decision they no longer remembered how to justify. Why did my father have access to this office? He worked here. Nia froze. What? Claire stared at her. Your father worked for Whitmore Farm. He repaired equipment. He did more than that. Nia waited. He was assistant manager for 6 years. Nia felt suddenly disoriented. My father never told me that. He probably had reasons. What happened? Claire looked toward the window. Elijah and I ran this place together. Nia said nothing. Robert was getting older. My brother had no interest in cattle. Elijah understood machinery, pasture rotation, labor, numbers. He could walk into a field and tell you which calf was sick before anybody else saw it. There was warmth in Claire's voice. Unwanted warmth. He was good, she continued. Better than most people here wanted to admit. Then why did he leave? He didn't. Claire looked at her. I fired him. Nia's anger returned. Why? Because he accused my father of stealing land. Silence. Not privately, Claire said. At a cattle association dinner, 40 people heard him. That sounds like Dad. He called Robert a thief. Was he? Claire looked away. I didn't know. That isn't an answer. It's the only one I had then. And when he started investigating, I told him to let it go. He didn't. No. He found the deed. Yes. Nia stared. You knew he found something. He told me he had proof. But you never saw it. I refused. Why? Because I thought he was trying to destroy my family. Nia slammed the legal pad onto the table. He went to prison. I know. You keep saying that like knowing is punishment. Claire stood. You think I haven't wondered every day whether I should have walked into that courtroom and said more? Yes. The answer surprised both of them. Nia continued. I think you built a life where your silence became ordinary. You ran cattle, paid workers, fixed fences, went to church, bought groceries, and every day my father woke up in a prison uniform because you had decided your doubt was less important than your family name. Claire's face hardened. That is not what happened. Then tell me what happened. Claire opened her mouth, stopped. Nia saw it. The invisible wall. The place Claire would not cross. You're still protecting something, Nia said. Claire's eyes filled with anger, or grief, maybe both. You have no idea what I'm protecting. Then enlighten me. Claire looked toward the door. The conversation was over. Nia gathered the legal pad. Claire put a hand on it. That stays here. It's evidence relevant to pending litigation. It belongs to the farm. My father wrote it. On farm property. Nia leaned closer. Try stopping me. For one long second, neither moved. Then Claire released the pad. As Nia reached the door, Claire spoke. Elijah hated me when he died. Nia stopped. I wouldn't know. He wrote me. Nia turned slowly. What? Claire immediately regretted saying it. Nia stepped toward her. My father wrote you from hospice? Claire said nothing. When? 2 weeks before he died. What did he say? That's between him and me. He was my father. And he was my friend before you were old enough to remember. The word struck Nia harder than Claire intended. You don't get to claim him. I'm not. You testified against him. I know. You let him go to prison. I know. And he wrote you? Claire's face broke slightly. Yes. Why? I don't know. Nia stared at her, then she walked out. That night she dreamed about her father. Not prison, not hospice. She dreamed of him at 40, standing beneath a pecan tree with sunlight behind him, laughing at something she could not hear. When she woke, she was crying. The phone rang at 6:14 a.m. Sam, you need to come to the farm. What happened? Fire. Nia was dressed in 3 minutes. Smoke was still rising when she arrived. The old record shed behind the ranch office had burned almost completely. Volunteer firefighters rolled hoses across the yard. Claire stood near an ambulance with soot streaked across her face. Nia ran toward her. Are you hurt? Claire looked surprised by the question. No. What was inside? Payroll records, maintenance logs, old maps. Nia stared at the smoking building. Maps? Copies. Of what? Everything. Sam approached. Fire marshals coming from the state. Accidental? Nia asked. Too soon? Claire laughed bitterly. No, it isn't. Sam looked at her. Claire pointed toward a broken window. Somebody threw something inside. You saw it? I heard glass, came out and saw flame. Nia looked toward the road. Anyone else here? Night hand in the calving barn. He didn't see anything. Security cameras? Claire shook her head. Not back here. Sam lowered his voice. What exactly were you searching for yesterday? Claire looked at Nia. Anything from 1957. And did you find it? No. A firefighter called Claire over. She walked away. Sam turned to Nia. You believe her? About not finding anything? About all of it. Nia watched Claire speak with the firefighter. I believe she's terrified. Of you? No. Nia looked at the destroyed shed. Of whoever is more afraid of the past than she is. The fire changed Bellwether. Until then, the dispute could be dismissed as an old family argument. A dead man's obsession, a daughter's grief. But fires made people curious, especially fires involving records. The sheriff opened an investigation. The State Historic Preservation Office sent an archaeologist to examine the cemetery. A local television station ran the headline, Hidden Black Cemetery Found on Disputed Georgia Farm. Within 3 days, descendants began calling. Bell, Carter, Holloway, Freeman, names tied to people buried beneath those woods. Nia's quiet legal petition became a public fight, and public fights attracted people who had spent years avoiding private ones. Richard Vale called her on Sunday. His voice was still smooth. Nia Holloway. Judge Vale. Retired. Old habits. I'm sorry about Elijah. Nia said nothing. I understand you're revisiting the property dispute. I'm correcting a wrongful conviction. That's a stronger accusation. Good lawyers use accurate words. Vale chuckled. You sound like your father. People keep telling me. I'm not sure he'd consider it a compliment. Why did you seal Survey M17? Silence. A very small silence. Court sealed exhibits for several reasons. Which reason applied? I don't recall. You prosecuted the case 20 years ago. You remember my father well enough to compare me to him. Vale paused. That was personality. This is evidence. Nia, I'm calling as a courtesy. To whom? You. That would be a first. His tone cooled. Be careful about implying misconduct without proof. Then help me find proof you did nothing wrong. Another silence. You always were clever. You knew me when I was a child. I knew of you. My father talked about me. He talked about nothing else. That hurt. Nia hated him for knowing it would. Did you threaten Amos Bell? Vale's voice changed. Who? Thank you. She hung up, Monday morning, Judge Harrington unsealed Survey M17, or what remained of it. The court file contained an envelope. Inside was a certified copy of a 1956 survey conducted for Beatrice Holloway Carter. It showed exactly what Elijah had claimed. Beatrice owned 182 acres. The proposed sale boundaries separated 92 acres on the north side. The remaining 90 acres included the cemetery. Nia sat motionless in the courthouse records room. Janice, Epps whispered, "Lord." But there was a problem. The survey was unsigned. The certification stamp had been partially torn away. Graham Sutter immediately argued it had no evidentiary value. Nia knew he was technically right. The document strongly supported her theory. It did not prove who altered the later county records. Then she noticed something handwritten at the bottom. Witness pins. M17, M18, M21. 3 physical markers. They had found M17. If the others still existed, a modern surveyor could reconstruct the original boundary independent of the damaged paper. Nia hired one that afternoon. His name was Marcus Delaney, 51, former Army engineer, now owner of a 2-man surveying company in Macon. He studied the map. "If these monuments are still where they were set, I can give you a line." How accurate. Accurate enough to make somebody uncomfortable. That's my favorite kind. Marcus smiled. They started the next morning. M18 was found beneath a collapsed wire fence. M21 took 2 days. It stood inside a dense patch of privet 76 yards north of the current Whitmore boundary. Marcus drove his survey instrument into the ground. The electronic unit beeped. He checked again. Then he looked at Nia. "Your father was right. The old fence had moved, not a little. In some sections, more than 200 feet. Across the southern tract, those shifts accounted for almost exactly 90 acres. Nia felt triumph for perhaps 10 seconds. Then Marcus added, "Doesn't tell us who moved it. Or when." Correct. But it proves the current boundary doesn't match the 1956 survey. It proves something changed. Nia looked through the woods toward the ranch. Sometimes that's enough to make people confess. Marcus gave her a sideways look. "You expecting one?" "No." But she thought of Claire, and she was no longer sure. The unexpected ally appeared 3 days later. Her name was Rebecca Whitmore, Claire's daughter, 41, a pediatric nurse from Savannah. She arrived at Nia's hotel after dark. Nia opened the door and recognized her immediately. They had attended school together, though Rebecca was 6 years older. "Can I come in?" "That depends." "On?" "Whether you're here as a Whitmore." Rebecca looked tired. "I'm here because I'm Claire's daughter." Nia stepped aside. Rebecca carried a canvas tote bag. She placed it on the small table. "My mother doesn't know I'm here." That sentence rarely improves legal situations. "I'm not asking for legal advice." "What are you asking?" "For you to understand something before she does something stupid." Nia folded her arms. "What?" Rebecca looked toward the window. "My mother has been going through my grandfather's house." "Roberts?" "We never sold it. It's on the north edge of the farm." "For what?" "She won't tell me." "Has she found something?" "I think so." Nia waited. Rebecca pulled an envelope from the tote. Inside was a photograph. Claire, probably 25 years old. Elijah Holloway beside her, both covered in mud, both laughing. Behind them stood a tractor stuck axle deep in a flooded pasture. Nia stared. "I've never seen this. My mom has boxes of them. Why?" Because they were friends. So Claire told me. No. Rebecca shook her head. They were more than friends. Naya looked up. Rebecca immediately clarified. Not romantic. Okay. They trusted each other. That was somehow harder to hear. My father never mentioned her. My mother barely mentioned him after the trial. Rebecca sat. When I was a kid, Uncle David used to joke Elijah should have been born a Whitmore because Grandpa listened to him more than his own children. David? Mom's older brother. Naya knew the name. David Whitmore had moved to Florida in the 1990s. He owned several construction companies. What does he have to do with this? Rebecca looked uncomfortable. He's coming tomorrow. Why? Because the land dispute affects the trust. Claire manages it. David owns half. Nia sat across from her, and he opposes reopening the title. He opposes anything that threatens the highway sale. How much money? About $8 million. There it was. Not ancient pride. Current money. The state's right-of-way and development access would increase the value of adjacent Whitmore acreage. Losing the southern tract could jeopardize the entire deal. Does David know about the cemetery? He does now. Did he know before? Rebecca hesitated. I don't know. Nia studied her. Why are you helping me? Rebecca looked at the photograph. Because when your father was arrested, my mother stopped sleeping. Nia said nothing. She'd walk the house at night. Sometimes I'd find her sitting in the kitchen at 3 a.m. Guilt. Yes. Then why didn't she fix it? Rebecca's eyes hardened. You think guilt makes people brave? That stopped Naya. Rebecca continued. Sometimes it makes them smaller. She stood. There's something else. What? My grandfather had dementia near the end. He said strange things. Such as, he kept asking whether Elijah had found Lillian's Bible. Nia's pulse jumped. His mother's Bible? Rebecca nodded. Do you know where it is? No. Does Claire? I asked her yesterday, and she told me never to say those words again. Robert Whitmore's old house smelled of cedar, mildew, and dust. Claire did not invite Nia. Nia came anyway. Rebecca let her in. The place had been empty for years. Sheets covered furniture, family photographs lined a hallway. Henry Whitmore appeared in several. Broad face, heavy shoulders. A man accustomed to land, control, and being obeyed. Naya stopped before one photograph. Henry stood beside a black woman in a wide-brimmed hat. Who was she? Rebecca looked. I don't know. Claire's voice came from behind them. Beatrice Carter. Naya turned. Claire stood in the doorway. Fury sharpened every line of her face. Rebecca! Mom, I told you not to bring anyone here. You told me a lot of things. Claire looked at Naya. Leave. No. This is private property. You've used that sentence before. I mean, it. So do I. Rebecca stepped between them. Mom, stop. Claire looked at her daughter. Something passed between them. Fear, betrayal, love. Then Claire seemed to deflate. She walked into the room and sat on a covered sofa. Nia held up the photograph. Why would Henry Whitmore have a picture with Beatrice? Because they knew each other. That's obvious. Her husband worked with my grandfather. Amos said Beatrice was widowed. Before that. Nia examined the image. Henry and Beatrice did not look like strangers. They stood comfortably beside each other. Behind them was the old ranch office. What was the relationship? Business. Which business? Claire gave her a tired look. The kind people didn't write down. Nia waited. During the Depression, Beatrice lent money to families. Black families, mostly. Henry too? Claire nodded. Nia stared. Your grandfather borrowed money from Beatrice Carter? Yes. How much? I don't know. Was the land repayment? Partly. Then why only 92 acres? Because that was the agreement. Nia's heart began pounding. You know the 92-acre deed was legitimate. Claire looked down. Rebecca whispered, Mom? Nia stepped closer. Say it. Claire raised her eyes. Yes. The room seemed to narrow around them. You knew my father's copy was genuine. I knew the acreage was probably correct. Probably. I had never seen the original deed, but you knew the family history. I knew my grandmother said Beatrice never sold the cemetery tract. Nia felt dizzy with anger. And you testified. Claire stood. I testified that Elijah removed the county deed book without permission. You knew. Why? He was looking for evidence. Of something you already believed was true? I did not know what was true. You just said your grandmother told you. My grandmother also had dementia. Everyone conveniently loses memory around this land. Claire flinched. Rebecca turned away. Nia lowered her voice. What did my father write you before he died? Claire said nothing. Did he mention the Bible? Silence. Nia knew. You found it. Claire's face betrayed her. Rebecca stared at her. Mother. Oh my God. Claire walked toward the staircase. Nia followed. Where is it? Stop. Where? Claire turned. I found the Bible after Elijah died. What's inside? I don't know. You expect me to believe you haven't opened it? I opened it. Then? Claire closed her eyes. Pages are missing. Nia stopped. What pages? The family record pages. Removed when? I don't know. By whom? I don't know. Claire opened a cedar trunk upstairs. From beneath blankets, she removed an old black Bible. Lillian Whitmore was embossed in gold on the cover. Inside the front pages, several sheets had been cut close to the binding. Nia examined the cuts. Old, not recent. Something fell from between the pages. A pressed pecan leaf. Then a small envelope. Claire stared. I didn't see that. Nia opened it. Inside was a key. Brass. Small. A number stamped into it. 317s. Rebecca whispered, What does it open? Claire looked terrified. I know. Safe Deposit Box 317 belonged to a bank that no longer existed. Bellwether Farmers and Trust had merged twice before becoming part of Southeastern Regional Bank. The bank manager found the original box records in digital archives. Box 317 had been rented in 1959 by Lillian Whitmore. No authorized co-owner, no recorded closure. The box itself had transferred to the modern bank vault. The legal problem was immediate. Lillian was dead. The key alone did not give Claire access, but Claire was executor of Robert's estate and trustee of the Whitmore Family Trust. After several hours, 2 lawyers and 1 irritated bank compliance officer, access was granted. Nisa waited outside the vault. Claire insisted on going in alone. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, the vault door opened. Claire emerged carrying a long metal box. Her face was wet with tears. She placed it on a conference table. Inside were letters, receipts, photographs, and a folded deed wrapped in wax paper. Nobody spoke. Nia opened it carefully. May 3rd, 1957. Beatrice Holloway Carter to Henry Joseph Whitmore, 92 acres. Original signatures. Original notary seal. Original legal description. The deed Elijah Holloway had been convicted of forging was real. Naya did not celebrate. She sat staring at her great-great-aunt's signature until the letters blurred. Her father had spent 11 years in prison for telling the truth. Claire sat across from her. "I'm sorry." Nia looked up. "No." Claire went still. "You don't get to give me that yet." "I know." "No, you don't." Nia's voice trembled. "He died believing I thought he was obsessed." Claire looked down. "I told him I was done talking about this case. I told him he had let it take everything." "Naya. And he was right." She slammed her palm onto the table. "He was right." The bank manager stepped into the doorway, then wisely stepped back out. Claire whispered, "He knew you believed him." "No, he didn't." "Yes. You don't know what he knew. He wrote it." Naya froze. Claire reached into her purse. She removed an envelope, creased from being opened repeatedly. Elijah's handwriting. Nia stared at it. Claire pushed it across the table. "This is what he sent me." Nia did not touch it. "What does it say?" "Read it." "You read it." Claire looked at her. Then she unfolded the paper. Her voice broke on the first sentence. "Claire, if Nia comes back after I'm gone, don't let her turn this into revenge." Naya closed her eyes. Claire continued. "She'll be angry. She'll have reason. But anger is a poor surveyor. It makes every old line look straight." A sound escaped Nia somewhere between laughter and grief. That sounded exactly like him. Claire kept reading. "I was wrong to make her carry my case. She deserved a father, and too often I gave her a cause." Nia covered her mouth. "I don't need her to prove I was perfect. I wasn't. I took the book. I broke rules. I frightened people because I thought being right excused the way I was right." Claire paused. "I need her to know one thing. I did not forge that deed." Nia whispered, "I know." Claire looked at her, then back at the page. "If you still have courage left, use it before she has to use all of hers." Silence filled the room. Nia stared at Claire. What did he mean? Claire folded the letter slowly. "He wanted me to confess." "To what?" Claire said nothing. "Claire, I'm not ready." Nia stood so quickly the chair scraped backward. "My father is dead." "I know. You have his letter asking you to tell the truth." "I know. You have the original deed." "I know. And you're still not ready?" Claire's face crumpled. "You think the deed is the worst thing in that box." Nia stopped. Claire looked down at the other papers. "It isn't." Among Lillian Whitmore's letters was a handwritten agreement dated 1957. Henry Whitmore acknowledged borrowing $14,000 from Beatrice Carter over several years. The 92 acres settled part of that debt. Another letter, written in 1960, complained that Henry had begun grazing cattle beyond the agreed line. Then came something worse. A tax notice from 1962 listing the full 182 acres under the Whitmore name. Beside it, in Lillian's handwriting, Henry says, "Clerk fixed it. Be gone. Family won't fight." Naya read the sentence twice. Fixed it. Claire stared at the table. Another document showed a payment to a deputy county clerk. Cash. No explanation. A third letter made the pattern clear. Lillian had written to her. "Sister," Henry moved the fence after Beatrice got sick. "I told him those people have graves there. He said dead people don't pay taxes." Rebecca began crying. Claire stared straight ahead. Nia felt no triumph now, only disgust. Henry Whitmore had not misunderstood a boundary. He had stolen land, and members of the county government had helped him. But one question remained. How does this connect to my father's conviction? Claire stood. Because Robert found the box. Nia looked at her. When? 2005. Before Elijah's arrest. Claire's voice shook. My father knew Elijah was investigating. He panicked, started going through Lillian's things after she died. He found the original deed. Yes. And hid it. Yes. Where? Here. Claire touched the metal box. He moved it to the bank. Why not destroy it? He couldn't. Conscience. Fear. Documents can be copied. He didn't know who else had seen it. Nia thought of Amos Bell's photograph. So, when my father took Deed Book 42, he found that the acreage in the county record had been altered. Nia's skin went cold. The actual book? Claire nodded. Elijah showed me. What? He brought me into the records room at the courthouse after hours. How? A clerk let him in. Janice. No, her predecessor. What did he show you? The page had been cut out and replaced. Nia stared. You saw it? Yes. The room became painfully quiet. You saw physical evidence that the county deed book had been altered? Yes. And when the prosecution asked whether my father tampered with it? Claire closed her eyes. I said yes. Rebecca whispered, Mom. Nia could barely breathe. You lied. Claire opened her eyes. Yes. There it was. Not ambiguity, not omission, not a bad memory, a lie. The lie that helped put Elijah Holloway in prison. Nia stepped back. Why? Claire's hands trembled. Because Robert begged me. That's not enough. No. What did he say? That if the truth came out, the farm would collapse. Banks would call loans, workers would lose jobs, my grandmother's name would be dragged through court. He said Elijah had broken into records and stolen documents, so nobody would believe him anyway. And you chose your farm. Claire looked at her. Yes. The word was barely audible. Nia's voice cracked. Over my father. Yes. Rebecca covered her face. Nia walked away from the table. She needed distance, and there was none. The walls felt too close. You could have corrected it. Yes. Appeal. Post-conviction hearing. Anything. Yes. 11 years. Claire's tears came freely now. I know. Stop saying that. I don't have another sentence. Then find one. Claire looked at her. I was a coward. Nia froze. Claire continued. I told myself I was protecting 100 employees. I told myself the jury convicted him because of more than me. I told myself Robert was sick, that reopening it would kill him, that Elijah would win on appeal without my help. Her voice broke. Then he didn't. Nia stared. When Robert died, I told myself I would fix it. But you didn't. No. Why? Because every year I waited made confessing harder. That's how cowardice works. I know. Nia almost shouted. Then she stopped. Claire already looked destroyed, but destruction was not justice. Nia gathered the original deed and letters. These need to go to the court. Claire nodded. And the district attorney. Another nod. And my father's conviction. I'll testify. You're damn right you will. For the first time, Claire did not flinch. I will. The news could have ended there. It did not. Because the following morning, Claire Whitmore disappeared. Her truck was found beside the old cattle pond. Keys inside. Phone on the seat. No Claire. By sunrise, deputies, volunteers, and firefighters were searching the property. Naya arrived to find Rebecca standing near the ranch office, white-faced. "She wouldn't hurt herself," Rebecca said. Sam did not answer. Nia did. "No." Rebecca looked at her. "You don't know that. I know she decided to testify. That doesn't mean she didn't run. How can you be sure?" Naya looked toward the missing truck. "Because Claire Whitmore doesn't leave gates open." The driver's door had been found closed, but the pasture gate beside, the pond stood wide. 3 cows wandered outside before dawn. Everyone at Whitmore Farm knew Claire's obsession with gates. She had once fired a seasonal hand for leaving one unlatched twice. Sam understood immediately. "You think someone staged the truck?" "Yes." They checked farm cameras. One camera near the feed barn captured headlights at 2:13 a.m. Claire's truck. Behind it, another vehicle. Dark SUV. The plate was unreadable. Rebecca stared at the screen. "My uncle drives a black Tahoe." David Whitmore answered his phone from Jacksonville. He claimed he had not been in Georgia for 3 days. His company GPS placed his vehicle in Florida. For several hours, suspicion shifted nowhere. Then a ranch hand named Luis Ramirez spoke up. He had seen Claire the previous evening with Graham Sutter, the family lawyer. Graham admitted meeting her. He claimed she asked about consequences of confessing to perjury. "What did you tell her?" Naya asked. "That she needed criminal counsel." "Anything else?" "That she should not speak publicly without representation." "That sounds like stay quiet in a nicer suit." Graham's expression hardened. "I did not abduct my client." "Then where is she?" "I don't know." At 3:40 that afternoon, Marcus Delaney found her. Not near the pond, near the cemetery. Claire lay at the bottom of a shallow ravine beneath the old survey line. Alive, injured, her ankle broken, a deep cut along her temple. She had crawled nearly half a mile. At the hospital, doctors treated dehydration, concussion, and hypothermia. Sam waited until she was stable. Nia stood outside the room. After 20 minutes, Sam emerged. "She says nobody attacked her." "What?" "She left the truck, walked toward the cemetery, slipped near the ravine." "At 2 in the morning?" "She couldn't sleep." "And the second vehicle?" "She says she doesn't know." Nia stared through the glass. Claire lay pale against the pillow. "She's lying again?" "Yes." "Why?" Sam looked tired. "Same reason people always lie." "Fear?" "Usually." Nia entered the room. Claire looked at her. "No." Nia closed the door. "Who followed you?" "I fell." "Who?" Claire turned her face away. Nia walked to the bed. "You promised to testify." "I will." "Then stop protecting people." Claire's eyes filled. "This isn't about the land." "What is it about?" "My daughter." Nia went still. "Rebecca?" Claire closed her eyes. "David called me." Nia waited. "He said if I confessed, he would reveal something about Rebecca." "What?" Claire said nothing. Claire. When she was 19, she caused an accident. Nia frowned. "A car accident. Drunk." Nia's stomach tightened. Claire continued. "A boy was badly injured. David paid the family. Robert pressured the sheriff. The report disappeared." "Was anyone killed?" "No." "Then Rebecca knows." "She knows there was an accident. She doesn't know Robert interfered with the investigation." Nia stared. "And David threatened to expose it?" "He has copies." "Rebecca is 41. She has children, a nursing license, a life." Naya felt exhausted. You nearly died protecting her from a truth she already partly knows. Claire looked at her. You don't understand. Naya laughed bitterly. I understand better than anyone in this family. Claire flinched. Nia lowered her voice. My father protected me from this case by never telling me how close he was to proving it. You protected Rebecca by hiding what happened. Robert protected the farm. Your grandfather protected stolen land. Everybody keeps calling secrecy protection. She leaned closer. It's just fear with better manners. Claire looked toward the window. I don't know how to fix this. Start by letting Rebecca decide what truth she can survive. Rebecca survived it. She cried, then got angry, then called her husband. Then, to Claire's astonishment, she called the hospital licensing office herself. The accident had occurred 22 years earlier. Rebecca had completed court-ordered alcohol counseling at the time under a lesser citation. The injury had been settled privately. The corruption surrounding the report implicated Robert Whitmore far more than Rebecca. David's leverage collapsed within 48 hours, and when investigators checked his phone records, they discovered he had been in Bellwether the night Claire was injured. His company vehicle was in Florida. His personal rental was not. He admitted following Claire to the cemetery. He denied touching her. Claire finally told the rest. David confronted her near the ravine. They argued. He grabbed the metal box containing copies of the documents. Claire pulled back. She slipped. He watched her fall, then drove away. He did not call for help. David Whitmore was arrested for reckless endangerment, evidence tampering, and later obstruction. The town exploded. Some defended him. Some defended Claire. Others insisted none of this had anything to do with Elijah Holloway because his conviction had been lawfully decided. Nia heard that phrase on television and nearly threw the remote. Lawfully decided, as though procedure could cleanse false testimony. The district attorney filed a joint motion with Nia to vacate Elijah's conviction. Judge Harrington scheduled the hearing for Friday. The courtroom filled before sunrise. Former ranch workers came, church members, reporters. Holloway relatives Nia had not seen in years. Descendants of people buried in the cemetery. Amos Bell sat in the front row wearing a dark suit and red tie. Janice Epps sat beside him. Sam stood near the back. Claire entered on crutches. Conversation died. She wore no makeup, no ranch jacket, just a plain gray dress. Rebecca walked beside her. Nia watched them take seats. For 20 years, Nia had imagined what clearing her father's name would feel like. She had pictured triumph, vindication, maybe relief. Instead, she felt grief sharpening with every breath. Her father should have been here. He should have heard the judge say the state no longer had confidence in the conviction. He should have watched the prosecutor admit that material evidence had been withheld. He should have heard Claire swear under oath that she lied. But Elijah Holloway was in a cemetery outside Atlanta. Justice had arrived after the only man who truly needed it could no longer receive it. Judge Harrington read the order. The conviction of Elijah James Holloway is hereby vacated. A sound moved through the courtroom. Not applause, something deeper. People exhaling together. Nia looked down. Her hands were trembling. The judge continued. The record shall reflect that the conviction cannot stand in light of newly discovered evidence, prosecutorial irregularities, and material false testimony. Nia closed her eyes. Cannot stand. 11 years could not be returned. Her missed prison visits could not be returned. His health, his work, his dignity. The last year they spent angry at each other. None of it. When she opened her eyes, Claire was watching her. Judge Harrington addressed Nia directly. "Miss Holloway, I understand no court order can restore what was lost." Nia nodded. Her voice would not work. "But the record can tell the truth." That was when she broke. Not dramatically, no collapse, just tears she could not stop. Amos reached over the railing and squeezed her hand. After the hearing, reporters crowded the courthouse steps. Nia had planned a statement. She had written it twice. She ignored it. "My father was not a perfect man," she said into the microphones. "He was stubborn. He broke rules when he thought rules were protecting wrongdoing. He let this case consume parts of his life and parts of mine." The crowd quieted. But Elijah Holloway did not forge that deed. Her voice steadied. "He told the truth about land his family lost, and powerful people found it easier to punish him than examine how that land was acquired." She looked toward Claire. "This is not just a story about one false witness. It is about what happens when institutions inherit old lies and treat them like facts because correcting them would be inconvenient." Claire lowered her head. Nia continued. "The truth came late." She swallowed. But it came. She stepped away. Then Claire moved toward the microphones. Rebecca tried to stop her. Claire shook her head. She balanced on her crutches. "My name is Claire Whitmore." Cameras turned. For 30 years, I managed Whitmore Farm. 20 years ago, I testified in the criminal trial of Elijah Holloway. Nia watched. Claire's face was pale. Her hands shook. "I lied." The words carried across the courthouse steps. "I knew Mr. Holloway had discovered evidence that the public deed record had been altered. I knew my own family had reasons to fear what he found. I told myself I was protecting workers, protecting my father, protecting a farm that supported families." She looked directly at Nia. "The truth is, I protected myself from having to choose what was right when doing right would have cost me everything I knew." Nobody moved. "Elijah paid for my cowardice." Claire's voice cracked. "His daughter paid too." Rebecca began crying. Claire continued. "I cannot return those years. I cannot ask forgiveness, as though forgiveness is another thing my family is entitled to receive." Nia felt the sentence strike somewhere deep. "I can only tell the truth now, publicly, and accept what follows." Then Claire stepped back. No dramatic applause. No instant redemption. Just consequences. Exactly as Nia believed there should be. Claire was later charged with perjury and obstruction-related offenses. Because of the age of the case, limitations issues complicated prosecution, but she entered a negotiated plea on offenses that remained viable. She lost her position as trustee. She resigned as forewoman. The Whitmore Family Trust agreed to suspend all development negotiations. Richard Vale faced a state bar investigation after evidence emerged that his office had suppressed Amos Bell's existence as a potential witness and failed to disclose the survey properly. He denied intentional misconduct. For once, Bellwether County did not accept certainty simply because a powerful man spoke with confidence. The land case continued. Historical title disputes were harder than television made them look. There was no single hearing where a judge pointed at Nia and awarded 90 acres while the gallery cheered. There were experts, probate records, tax claims, adverse possession arguments, boundary doctrines, government immunity questions, months of motions. The Whitmore attorneys argued that even if Henry acquired the land improperly, decades of possession created legal rights. Nia argued that fraud contaminated those claims and that the cemetery carried separate protections. The descendants formed a committee, which immediately began arguing among themselves. Amos wanted the entire 90 acres preserved. Several cousins wanted compensation. One Holloway descendant wanted timber rights. Another believed the state should purchase everything. Nia found herself sitting through meetings where people shouted over pie and coffee. She almost laughed. This, she thought, was what her father had romanticized. Family land. Turns out family came with opinions. One evening after a particularly ugly meeting, Nia sat alone on the courthouse steps. Sam joined her. He handed her coffee. "You have a problem." "What?" "You've become predictable." "I'm tired." "That too." They watched traffic move around the square. "You staying?" he asked. Nia looked at him. "In Bellwether?" "Yeah." "My apartment is in Atlanta." "Not what I asked." She smiled slightly. "I don't know." Sam nodded. "You don't have to." "My father would have wanted me here." "That's not a reason." Nia turned. Sam looked toward the courthouse. "You spent a lot of years living in reaction to him." She did not answer. "You don't have to stay because Elijah would want it." "I know." "And you don't have to leave because staying feels like becoming him." That one hurt. "How'd you get wise?" "I'm a deputy in a county where cousins call the sheriff over fence posts." "Trauma teaches." "Exactly." They sat in silence. Nia looked toward the dark outline of Whitmore Farm beyond town. "I don't want the land." Sam nodded. "I thought I did." "What changed?" "I found it." That made sense in a way she could not explain. The land had been symbolic when she arrived. Proof, justice, her father's vindication. Now it contained graves, trees, arguments, taxes, drainage problems, and people. Real things were always heavier than symbols. In early spring, the State Historic Preservation Office completed its initial cemetery survey. 37 probable graves, 21 marked, 16 unmarked. The oldest dated 1849, the newest 1971. The research connected many buried there to black families who had worked farms throughout Bellwether County after emancipation. One discovery stopped Nia cold. A stone partly buried beneath the roots of a pecan tree. Elias Holloway, 1841-1919. Born enslaved, freedman, farmer, her ancestor. Property records showed Elias had purchased 40 acres in 1878. His daughter later married into Beatrice Carter's family. The land was not simply acreage lost in the 1950s. It was connected to people who had spent generations acquiring, preserving, dividing, and defending property under conditions designed to make black ownership fragile. Nia stood beside the stone one warm afternoon. Claire approached slowly. Her ankle had healed enough for a cane. They had not spoken alone since the courthouse hearing. "You can tell me to leave," Claire said. Nia looked at her. "Would you?" "Yes." "Then stay." Claire stood beside her. Birds moved through the pecan trees. "You knew Elias?" Nia asked. "Only the name. My father never mentioned him. Maybe he didn't know." "He knew." Nia smiled faintly. "He always knew things and waited until the worst possible moment to tell me." Claire almost smiled too. Then the expression disappeared. "I'm selling my house." Nia looked over. "Why? Legal fees? David?" "Among other things. You don't have to tell me." "I know." Claire rested both hands on the cane. The trust is negotiating settlement. I know. They'll return 64 acres outright, cemetery plus surrounding woods. Remaining disputed acreage becomes part of a compensation package. Nia nodded. Her legal team had seen the proposal. What do you think? Claire asked. I think my cousins are going to fight about it until we all die. That sounds familiar. Nia glanced at her. Claire looked toward Elias's stone. I used to think land made families permanent. What do you think now? I think people ruin themselves trying to make permanent things out of what was always borrowed. Nia considered that. Are you asking me to forgive you? No. Good. Claire nodded. I don't know if I ever will. I know. Nia looked at her sharply. Claire almost laughed. Sorry. The silence between them was less hostile now, not comfortable, just honest. Claire reached into her jacket pocket. I found one more thing. Nia tensed. I'm beginning to hate that sentence. Claire handed her a small cassette tape. What is this? Your father. Nia froze. From when? 2005. How? He used to record equipment notes while driving. Easier than writing. Claire looked at the cassette. After he accused Robert, he came to me one night. He was furious. I was furious. He recorded part of the conversation. Why? I think by then he recorded everything. That also sounds like him. I found it in an old toolbox. Have you listened? Yes. Nia's pulse quickened. What's on it? You should hear. The old ranch office still had a cassette player in a cabinet. Nia pressed play, static. Then her father's voice, 21 years younger, alive. I'm asking you one time, Claire. Come look at the line. Claire's younger voice answered. I've seen the line. No. You've seen the fence. Same thing. No, ma'am. Nia laughed through sudden tears. No, ma'am. That was Elijah when he was angry enough to become formal. The monument sits 70 yards north. His voice continued. Your daddy knows. Elijah, stop. He knows. You don't know what you're accusing him of. I know exactly. Then Claire, you want me to burn down my family because of one piece of concrete? No. A pause. I want you to stop calling a fence truth just because you grew up looking at it. Nia closed her eyes. The tape continued. Claire said, What do you want from me? Elijah answered, Walk out there. That's it? Walk the line with me. Then what? Then decide what kind of woman you are. The recording ended. Nia sat motionless. Claire stood near the door. I didn't go. Nia looked at her. I know. Claire nodded. I spent 20 years wishing I had. Nia turned the cassette over in her hand. My father could be impossible. Yes. He made everything a moral test. Yes. He usually already knew which answer he wanted. Claire smiled sadly. Yes. Nia looked toward the window. But he was asking you to look. Yes. That's what none of you did. Claire's eyes lowered. No. That became the idea Nia could not release. Look. Not believe Elijah automatically. Not condemn Whitmore automatically. Look at the survey monuments, the cemetery, the original deed, the altered record, the people who benefited, the people who paid. Justice had failed because too many people accepted the fence. Almost 1 year after Nia returned to Bellwether, the settlement was announced. 68 acres surrounding the cemetery and creek transferred into a non-profit land trust controlled jointly by descendants of the Carter, Holloway Bell, and Freeman families. The Whitmore Trust paid additional compensation, funded partly by the sale of unrelated acreage. The highway route shifted several hundred yards west. Construction costs increased. Taxpayers complained, then moved on. The historic cemetery received state protection. A small access road was built. No gates, no private ownership sign, just a stone marker with names. Not all the names were known. That bothered Naya at first. Then Amos told her, "Unknown don't mean forgotten." She wrote that down. Claire contributed something nobody expected. 20 acres of her personal property adjoining the cemetery. No conditions, no naming rights, no plaque. When reporters asked why, she declined interviews. Nia understood. Some acts were not redemption, they were repayment. Those were different things. Richard Vale surrendered his law license rather than continue disciplinary proceedings. David Whitmore pleaded guilty to evidence tampering and reckless endangerment. Rebecca kept her nursing license. Her marriage survived the scandal. So did her children. The catastrophe Claire had spent decades fearing did not happen. Truth damaged them. It embarrassed them. Cost money, changed relationships. But it did not destroy them. That realization seemed to wound Claire more than punishment. She had sacrificed Elijah's freedom to prevent an apocalypse that existed mostly in her imagination. Naya knew something about imaginary disasters. She had spent years afraid that believing her father would require becoming him. She had been wrong too. She could honor his fight without inheriting all his anger. She could love him without pretending he had never hurt her. She could clear his name without cleaning his humanity. That was the emotional discovery grief had refused to give her at first. Love did not need acquittal, only truth. In October, they held a memorial service in the restored cemetery. Not for one person, for everyone buried there. More than 200 people came. Cars lined County Road 18. Church choirs sang beneath the pecan trees. Children placed flowers beside stones whose names they had learned through months of research. Amos, Belle sat beneath a canopy, wrapped in a dark coat despite the warm afternoon. Nia stood near Elias Holloway's grave. Sam approached, carrying a small wooden box. "What's that?" "Something Janice found." Nia groaned. "No more documents?" "Not exactly." He opened it. Inside was a brass nameplate. Elijah Holloway, Assistant Farm Manager. Nia stared. "Where?" "Old County Fair exhibit. Whitmore Farm had a display in 2002. Nia ran her fingers over the letters. Her father had never told her about the title. Maybe because losing it hurt. Maybe because prison reduced life into before and after, and some parts of before became unbearable. Claire stood several yards away. Nia walked toward her. She held out the nameplate. "You kept this?" Claire looked at it. "No. County Fair Storage." Claire smiled faintly. He hated that title. "Why?" Said assistant manager, meant manager, until something went wrong. Nia laughed. "So what did he want?" "Partner." The word carried weight. "In the farm?" Claire nodded. Robert considered it. Nia stared. A black partner in Whitmore Farm? Would have caused talk then. Still would. Probably. What stopped it? The land dispute. Of course. Nia looked toward the restored cemetery. Everything came back to the land. Or maybe everything had simply been buried there. "You loved him," Nia said. Claire looked surprised. "Not romantically," Nia added. "I know what you meant." "Did you?" Claire watched people moving among the graves. "Yes." "That make lying easier or harder?" Claire's eyes filled. "Harder afterward." Nia nodded. It was not forgiveness, but it was understanding. And understanding was enough for that day. The service began. A pastor spoke, then a historian, then descendants read names. Joseph Bell, Elias Holloway, Martha Freeman, Sarah Carter, children, mothers, farm workers, veterans, men born, enslaved who died landowners. Women whose signatures survived in courthouse books, even when people tried to erase the boundaries those signatures created. Finally, Amos called Nia forward. She had not planned to speak. He ignored that. "Elijah's girl," he said into the microphone. People laughed softly. Nia walked beneath the pecan trees. She looked out at faces from every part of her life. Family. Strangers. People who once believed her father guilty. People who always believed him innocent. People who had never known his name until a bulldozer nearly crossed a cemetery. Claire stood beside Rebecca near the back. Sam leaned against a tree. Nia unfolded nothing. No prepared statement. My father used to say, "Land remembers." She paused. When I was young, I thought he meant ownership, boundaries, deeds. Wind moved through the leaves overhead. I think I understand him differently now. She looked toward Elias Holloway's stone. Land remembers what people do on it, who works it, who loves it, who is buried in it, who moves the fence, who notices, who looks away. Claire lowered her eyes. My father spent years trying to prove where one boundary belonged. Nia swallowed. He was right about that boundary. A few people smiled. He was wrong about something else. She could almost hear Elijah objecting. He thought winning would heal everything. Nia looked at the crowd. It doesn't. Silence. Some years cannot be returned. Some apologies come too late. Some people die before the truth catches up. Her voice wavered. But that does not make truth useless. She looked at the children beside the graves. It means truth belongs partly to whoever comes next. Nia stepped away from the microphone. No applause was necessary. But it came anyway. Soft at first, then stronger. Amos stood with help. Rebecca clapped through tears. Claire did not. She simply placed one hand over her heart. Later, after most people left, Nia remained in the cemetery alone. Sunset spread gold through the trees. She walked to the edge of the old survey line. Marcus had placed small bronze markers where M17, M18, and M21 stood. The old Whitmore fence had been removed. For the first time in nearly 70 years, no barrier divided the cemetery from the land legally belonging to it. Nia stood where the fence used to run. She imagined her father there, not the sick man from hospice photographs, not inmate 48721, not the furious defendant from courtroom video, just Daddy. Work boots, Braves cap, pointing toward an invisible line. She had spent so long wanting him to be proved right that she had forgotten how badly she wanted one more chance to tell him he mattered even when he was wrong. Her throat tightened. "I found it," she whispered. Wind moved through the grass. Nothing answered. That was the cruelty of grief. You could solve the mystery, win the case, correct the record, and still there was nobody on the other side of the conversation. Footsteps approached behind her. "Sam." He stopped several feet away. "I can go." "No." He joined her. They stood quietly. "You heading back to Atlanta tomorrow?" he asked. Nia looked toward the road. Her lease had ended 2 weeks earlier. Most of her belongings were already in storage. She had accepted a temporary consulting position helping the Descendant Land Trust review historic property claims around the county. Temporary could mean 6 months or 6 years. She had stopped demanding the future answer immediately. Not tomorrow. Sam nodded. That's progress. Don't get excited. Wouldn't dream of it. Nia smiled. They began walking toward the access road. Near the gate, Claire waited. She held something wrapped in cloth. I was going to leave this at your office. Nia looked at the bundle. What is it? Claire handed it over. Inside was an old wooden-handled hammer. Elijah's initials were burned into the grip. E.H. Nia recognized it. My father's. He left it in the machinery shed before the trial. You kept it? I kept a lot of things I should have returned. Nia held the hammer. The wood was smooth where her father's hand had worn it down. Thank you. Claire nodded, then turned to leave. Claire. She stopped. Nia did not know what she intended to say. Forgiveness would have been easy for an audience. Clean, emotional, final. Real forgiveness was not something Nia could perform because sunset made the moment beautiful. I don't hate you. Claire closed her eyes. For her, that seemed to be almost more than forgiveness. Nia continued. I'm not ready for much more than that. Claire nodded. I don't expect more. Maybe someday. Claire looked at her. Maybe. Then she walked toward Rebecca's car. Nia watched her go. Sam stood beside her. You mean it? What? That you don't hate her? Nia considered the question. Yes. When did that happen? I don't know. That's inconvenient. Most useful things are. They reached the road. Behind them, the last sunlight touched the cemetery stones. No bulldozers, no survey stakes, no fence, just open ground. 1 year later, Nia stood inside the Bellwether County Courthouse basement, watching a new archival cabinet being installed. Janice Epps supervised as though the workers were handling explosives. Not crooked. It's level, one worker said. I got eyes. Nia smiled. The county had created a digitization project for historic land records after the Holloway case exposed how vulnerable older documents were to loss and manipulation. Every deed book would be scanned, every survey indexed, every alteration logged. Small reforms, unexciting reforms, exactly the kind that prevented dramatic injustices from becoming good stories later. Janice handed Nia a folder. What now? Your daddy's corrected record. Nia opened it. Elijah James Holloway conviction vacated. Wrongful conviction finding entered. She stared. The words looked almost disappointingly small. 11 years reduced to 2 lines. Want a copy? Nia smiled. 3. Janice laughed. Now you sound like Amos. He taught me well. Outside, Bellwether was preparing for its fall cattle festival. Children hung banners across Main Street. A marching band practiced badly behind the high school. Sam had texted that he needed help moving folding chairs. Nia had replied that she was an attorney, not municipal labor. He replied with a photograph of 20 folding chairs waiting beside his truck. She was still deciding how long to make him suffer. Her phone buzzed. A message from Rebecca. Mom wants to know if the cemetery board approved the pecan saplings. Nia replied, yes, tell her Saturday at 8. Claire now worked part-time for a livestock rescue organization 2 counties away. She no longer managed land. That seemed appropriate. But she volunteered every month maintaining the cemetery trails. Some descendants resented her presence. Some eventually accepted it. Nia never asked them to forgive. The place belonged to all their histories now. On Saturday morning, they planted 12 young pecan trees along the southern edge. Amos supervised from a lawn chair. Sam dug holes. Rebecca's children carried water. Claire worked quietly. Nia planted the final sapling near the place where the old fence had stood. She pressed red Georgia soil around the roots. Claire knelt opposite her. For a while they worked without speaking. Then Claire said, "Your father would complain we planted them too close." Nia smiled. "He'd measure. Twice." "Then tell us the county records were wrong." "They probably are." Both women laughed. It was the first time they had laughed together, not because the past had been repaired. It had not. Elijah was still dead. Claire had still lied. Henry had still stolen. Robert had still hidden evidence. Those facts did not disappear because people learned to stand in the same field. But another fact had joined them. They were planting something on land where a lie once stood. Years from now, the trees would shade graves whose names nearly vanished. Children who had never met Elijah Holloway would eat pecans beneath branches that grew because his daughter came home asking questions. Nia stood and brushed dirt from her hands. Across the field, a bronze marker caught the morning light. M117, the old survey monument. The first hard proof her father had been telling the truth. For years, everyone thought justice would come from finding the right paper. Instead, it came from people finally walking beyond the fence and looking at what had been there all along. Nia rested one hand on the young tree. Her father had been right. Land remembered. But only people could decide what to do with the memory.